Okay, awesome. All right, so guys, this is the Help Me Rhonda show. We had a little bit of techie difficulties. In fact, the power went out, the Wi-Fi is out, but I'm here with Todd Falcone, the Fearless Networker, and we are talking about some really powerful stuff. So if you guys are watching live here, good for you, you're still on. Otherwise, I want to really record this in the best possible way. Go ahead and drop the lighting on that as well, so we have a little bit more light. All right, so Todd and I were talking about, Todd is the Fearless Networker. He teaches direct sales network marketers how to close more sales, how to impact their audience. What do you do? Why don't you tell them instead of me doing it? He just did it, but he's doing it again.
I teach people how to make network marketing easier, right?
Oh,
I mean, it's as simple as that. People get involved in the profession, and they make it so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And so my whole mission is helping people make network marketing easier. And I think achieving network marketing mastery is a journey that you're on if you decide to go into the network marketing space. But it's all about just helping people figure the game out. And I spent my entire business career, 30 years in the network marketing space. So.
And I was saying this earlier before the recording went out. This is where I started. This is how we made our first 7 figures. I got all my knowledge and education from this industry because there's no overhead. And I called 3,000 leads and didn't make one sale. But I learned something. That's where Todd and I were at when it zapped out. You said the biggest thing about starting a business, not even network marketing, because you also are one of the top sales trainers in all businesses, corporations, teaching sales professionals how to sell better.
Yep.
And you said one decision is that people have to make in their success is that they actually have to realize it's all about them, right? It's all on you. And I remember that. I was working a job, paychecks were coming in. Well then, when I went cold turkey and started my business, I was like, wait, my activity is where I make money? It was a big realization that I had, and I was scared shitless.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
So where do you see people where the failure comes in, or where's what stops them from being successful in any network marketing, direct sales, or starting their own company?
Well, my whole brand describes it, the Fearless Networker. It's fear. And it's in network marketing specifically, it's people being afraid of how they're going to be perceived or judged. I mean, let's be real. Network marketing, in fact, I've done this on now in 30 countries. I've been on stages around the world, and I've gone with the audience. I said, MLM has a blank attached to it. And without fail, in every country, no matter what the language is, they go, stigma. Right? So, but the crazy thing is, like, and so when I hear, like, and I'll do this on stage, like, when I hear the word stigma, I'm going to get gross for a second, sorry. I see this big, fat, seeping, pussy.
Gross.
I told you I was going to get gross.
But it's true, yeah.
So you're telling me the thing that I'm in, that I've been in for 30 years, is a big, fat, seeping, pussy wart. And honestly, it pisses me off a little bit. But it's people, like network marketing. Here's the thing about network marketing. Anybody can get in. You know, anybody who can just throw a couple bucks in can get into the deal. Like franchising and starting other businesses or starting your own brand, for example, there's more moving pieces, more money that's involved. And so while it's not perfect, it's an amazing profession. It's a great proving ground for like kind of figuring out, hey, how personally accountable am I?
Yeah.
You know, like, because the reality is in a job, you can kind of cruise through a job and you still get your check.
I still was top person.
It would be interesting to look at productivity in the workforce. Like, how much productivity are we actually getting out of this person? It's probably like 30% of their actual capacity.
Easy.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. I mean, so Todd has worked with thousands of people in not only closing sales, helping them make their business, their life easier. And of course, you know what I do is I help create sexy brands that leave a legacy, that are profit-making machines, right? So you said something. You're like, it's a lot more work when you're building a brand. Now, and I believe where my success came from is because I put a wedge in between the company and myself. We built the brand first. That's allowed us to maintain our integrity of our mission and our values so that our audience was able to go, wow, I know who they are. I want them. So then no matter what, that stigma, the pussy stigma, actually was already squeezed. It was just a little red.
Yeah. It was healing.
Right? It was healing.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing. And I think it's important for everyone to realize, like, the value and the power. Of course, it's my passion, right, is brand building. But it's also about the content you produce.
Yeah.
Brand building is production of content. It's producing content. It's providing value. It's creating know, like, and trust. Like we can go all the marketing words, right? I feel like we're spewing out Perry Marshall's book, which is who I learned from in the beginning. So let's talk about that. The topic really is about, are you a producer or are you a consumer? And how are you balancing, or do you even know what that means? Let's actually talk about what it means first.
Sure.
Because that's been our conversation this week, like about, we were talking about kids, we're talking about, you know, like media day. We have a media day and we're producing content. But what happens with those in their business? It's all on them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, you know, thumb stopper content.
Well, the funny thing is the whole conversation came up because we were talking about, what was like 4 days ago, I was talking about, wow, it's interesting, like my kids will be playing video games while they're watching YouTube at the same time. So they're multi, it's like, like, what are you doing? And it's one thing to be consuming information, but if you're consuming information with intent, you know, like you could be on Facebook and consuming information. Like, let's say you're a marketer, and look, we've all been brought down and sucked into the Facebook blue rabbit hole. We're like or YouTubing ourselves to death, right? And you're looking at stuff maybe for entertainment, and all consumption has a purpose. Yeah. Sometimes the consumption is just entertainment. Honestly, like after I've gone through recording 70 videos for a new training series, I'm like done, right? I did that a couple weeks ago. I spent like an entire week, all I did was produce videos, and after that, I just went into consumption entertainment mode, right? And I was just like, I'm gonna veg out for a little bit and consume for like just vegetative purposes, right? But then even while I'm doing that, I'm consuming in a different way. This is actually an interesting direction to go in the conversation because it's pretty much like adults that are watching this and probably business professionals. Yeah. Like I look at things with a bigger like set of eyeballs. Like I'm looking at it like not just I'm watching this entertaining surf video. It's like, well, how is that surf video produced? Yeah. You know, what about the framing and how they're actually moving the camera and you know, the lighting or the editing or how it's put together. So I think, you know, especially for people that are probably plugging into this or entrepreneurs, business owners, and we're consuming things, but you got to be careful that you don't get into just full-on consumption without production. And it goes down to that whole conversation we had about give versus take. Yeah, exactly. Right?
Let's go to that, Gary, because I'll stop for a moment. We'll go into give and take because it's a big deal. They're actually parallel conversations, right? So you can be a consumer and you are consuming content. You're learning. Well, I say that, but most of us are not. So what we're doing today is talking about, I want you to ask yourself, are you a producer or are you a consumer? And that means, are you consuming and you're just la 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 la, or are you consuming with intent? Correct. Right? Meaning I'm learning as I consume. But you have to start cutting yourself off and then become a producer, because what happens is we do get stuck in that. And then this is, you know that topic of, imposter syndrome? Have you ever heard of it?
I have not.
Okay, so imposter syndrome is where it happens often in entrepreneurs, small business owners that are starting up. And it's because of the media now, the consumption amount of media that's coming at us. So here I am, I'm a new marketer. I've got to produce a video, or I've got to do promo stuff. I got to do a live, and then I'm watching everyone else. Imposter syndrome kicks in that says, I'm not as good as him. Yeah. Why should I do that? Why should I sell that? It happens so much more frequently in our industry than we really realize. And that is how we start to organize who we are. Because if you are sitting there going, you know, I've got this great business, or I've got this great product, my brand is going to change someone's life. But then we're sitting, and instead of consuming to produce, we're consuming and we're thinking, I'm not that good. Right? So that's the consumption side. Now let's look at the production side. You just said, if you're consuming, you're also looking at the production of it, like how good it is, so that you can be a better producer.
Correct.
Right?
Consuming with purpose. And like, you know, consuming, like you just said, the whole idea of like looking, I could never be like that. And Brian and I this morning were talking about, well, how do you know until you try? Like we actually did a video out in the water this morning, and it was like, well, you never know until you actually dip your feet in, right? Yeah. So, like, especially if you're a newer entrepreneur and you're starting something and you've got a great idea and you're like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could be like that person. Well, how do you know until you try? Like, I didn't know I could be successful in network marketing. I never thought I could be on a stage speaking in front of thousands of people. But I did it, and I was like, oh, okay. I remember sweating.
Like we are starting to right now.
The first time I was on a platform, it was like, actually not even a platform, it was in front of 75 people. And I was like, hey, it's your time, it's your turn, it's your time. And I'm like, oh, what? And the guy throws me the keys to the office, and he's like, yeah, you're going to go do the 4 steps training. And I was like in a panic mode, immediately sweat on my palms, dry mouth. I get up and I was like super nervous, and literally I was like pouring down sweat. I'm sure there are people in the audience, oh, this poor kid. Right. I was 22, 23 at the time. This poor kid, oh my gosh, give him a napkin, give him a towel, you know, I hope he lives. But I was willing to take that first step. And that first step, which is stepping into the fear. That's the other thing. That's like the whole part of like my brand, the Fearless Networker. It's not that you don't have fear. It's that you're willing to face the fear, and that you're willing to face it one step at a time. And for people that are starting new businesses, and I understand fear is normal, and it's not like I don't have fear. It's the willingness to press it aside long enough to get done whatever needs to get done. But you got to step into it.
Okay, so this is great. This leads into the whole topic of value, give and take, because that means fear is always going to be there, right? It doesn't, I don't care who you are. Like if you're not afraid, you're not living. If you're not excited, right? Sure. And we talk with this with Hanalei quite often because she speaks on stage, and when she realized, and this will be good for all of you that are going, yeah, I'm totally afraid I like to consume, I'm afraid to produce it, is that, did you realize, if you actually think about it on a neurological level, right? It's our fight or flight, our neuro, what the heck's my word? Whatever that word is, your energy levels, is that fear has the exact same level and feeling as excitement.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So think about it. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm fearful, and fight or flight's kicking in, norepinephrine, dopamine is like, oh, right? Same thing as when you're like, I'm so excited, I can't believe it! Right? Like, that's mine. I'm pretty the same. When Hanalei learned to look at both and say, oh, I'm just excited, the fear went away.
Yeah.
And she's been doing videos for quite some time, and so have we both. And I remember in those moments, I was so nervous, but I had to do it. And it's because of those things that we started with. One was, I knew it was all on me. I knew that if I wanted this, it was all on me. Second was, if I realized that my brand or who I am had value to give, then I got to get through it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you actually have a belief that what you do, your brand, and what your mission is can change someone's life, like really believe it. And because that's like kind of a cliche word, isn't it? A lot. Yeah. I know that our products and what I do is going to change your life. Join me. And they're like, $signs on my forehead. People know it, right?
Yeah, they can feel it.
They feel it. So let's talk about that, like the value, the give and the take side of the value, and you're either a giver or you're a taker, because I think that all really meshes.
Well, you were talking about that book a moment ago, and actually there's a old classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
And something I talk about on stages all the time, and there's a lot of great things out of that book, but one thing in particular is this whole idea of being genuinely interested, not interesting.
Yeah.
Like we were talking this morning and yesterday, like I was on this radio show, and somebody said, well, how come you haven't had an implosion in 30 years, right? Like how are you not, like, in 30 years of being an entrepreneur, like it's not like if I look at revenue figures, there might have been slight dips, but there's never been a tank, and then, like, you know, it hasn't been this giant roller coaster. And the guy asked me, he said, well, why is that? Like, there's a lot of people that have had these massive ups and massive crashes. And for me, and by the way, even in like the 2008, 9, 10, I look back at that and it's like, I mean, I know some of you probably were impacted but I know you were dramatically. That's how you shifted into what your whole travel. But I didn't even feel it, which is weird. Like, I look back, I was like, was there a recession? Because in that time frame, I didn't experience it because I wasn't leveraged in like a whole bunch of real estate deals. Yeah. I lost money in a few real estate deals, but no, that's another story. But as far as like business consistency, when the guy asked me the question, it was two things. I said, number one, and you and I are the same on this, I never do a single day without doing some type of revenue producing activity. It's like every single day doing some type of revenue producing activity. And number two, and the biggest reason is because I'm a relationship builder. I learned a long time ago that, so I don't remember who told me, but it's like, hey, look, listen, people buy from those that they like and trust.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if that's case, and if I'm in a sales business, and everybody's pretty much in sales, even if they're not in a sales job, they're everybody sells something.
Yeah.
That I sought out to do things to build relationships, and that's where the give comes in.
Thank you.
You know, rather than the take. Because, like, for example, if you're in sales, and the only time that you call somebody is when you want something, you're never going to get it. It's like, oh, the only time you call me is when you want to renew the contract. You're never going to get it.
Well, this goes into then. This is funny, so I have to stop, because if you guys were just listening and you thought it sounded like Brian was urinating behind the camera with the sound, he was just pouring water for us.
Oh, he wasn't urinating? Oh,
I was like,
okay.
And if you saw me going, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no urination.
That's funny.
On the show.
No urination.
Just water. But it's such a big thought though. If when we're talking about giving value, what did you just say, by the way? I had a really good idea. What did you just say?
Well, I mean, maintaining content. If the only time you call somebody is when you want something, you're not going to get it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because distraction, urination, instantly thought about what everyone was thinking. That's called a pattern interrupt, by the way.
That is a pattern interrupt.
Right?
Yeah.
That allowed you to be like, whoa, they're crazy. What are they talking about? But now you're more interested in what we're going to say next. And that goes into this value thing, right? If you're doing lives all the time, and every live is an offer, every time it's a lead up to sell something, we all get used to it. So this is why too, Todd, I talk about this often in my show, is I created this process called the 21-day plan. I wrote the chapter of Russell Brunson's book, and it's about the invisible difference. Creating value-based content that is leveraged on what you do the best, and delivering value-based content all the way through for 21 days. And there's a process that we follow, like what to say, the organization, the outline of it all, into making an offer. Because if you think about when you're learning from someone, or you're doing something, it takes 21 days to create do you know how many days it takes? It's a habit? Habit.
Yeah.
And then it takes 3 cycles of 21 to create a ritual.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so if we can create a habit for ourselves, but then we also create a habit for our audience, they keep following you, then at the very end, and I call it the Pied Piper, they're like, I love what they say, I love what they do, I love what they do, yay, yay, yay. Boom, here's the offer at the webinar or whatever. But this is where it goes into your audience knowing, because everyone, you guys are smart, right? They're smart. Our population, we're seeing it because content is flying at us like that, rapid pace. That if you're always just selling, that you're not giving value actually.
Yeah.
You are taking from them.
Constantly taking.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's about how do you load your content up. So how do you, like when you are prepping for the content that you deliver and thinking about, am I producing, am I taking, am I value basing? Like how do you set up your content that you provide?
I will map out months and months of content ahead of time.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Because and we do a new content strategy from what I was doing before. I was like doing 3 or 4 videos a week that we were putting out, and that honestly was exhausting for me. So what we decided to do is put out one main chunk of content, and then all of the other things around it, whether it's Facebook Lives or Instagram or anything else, feeds into that single piece of content. But in fact, if you're like the way I'll produce content, I can come up with a single word, and then have 20 pieces of content from a single word. So even you're like, I'm struggling to come up with content. Like, okay, let's go maximize. Okay, there's a word. Well, how can you use the word maximize in producing chunks of content? How to maximize your productivity in your day? How to maximize the use of your time? How to whatever. I mean, so you can
revenue generation. I mean,
but it's just one word, right? So
wow, I like that.
One word or a small phrase, and so I'll go through in my journal and I'll just start going through it. And then the other thing is specific to your industry that you're involved in. What words or phrases are constantly used in whatever niche? Like we were talking about this fly fishing example the other day. Well, if you're a fly fishing expert and you're gonna do you're going to brand yourself as the fly guy, for example, and you're putting out content. Well, what are all these fly fishing terms? Riffle, dry fly, nymphing, leader, hook, yarn, whatever those things are, casting, different styles of decast or whatever it might be. You can sit there and come up with so much content.
Yeah.
and it's not hard. That's the other thing, like, because we're talking about putting value out. Because okay, let's say, and I don't know why I'm going on the fly guy. I like to fly fish, so I guess I'll go there. But
it's a good example because we all kind of understand it.
Sure, because then it takes us out of the network marketing scope. I'm sure not everybody watching me is involved in network marketing. So let's say that was your deal, and you were going to start producing content. Well, you want to add value. So who's your audience? My audience is people that really want to understand how to be effective at fly fishing. And so, wow, well, if this person's constantly putting out value to me, that's teaching me how to cast better, how to understand how to read water better, how to actually catch a fish and not kill the fish, because most fly fishermen and women are like catch and release for the most part, and you don't want to injure the fish. You want to have to catch it, be able to release it back in the wild, let it grow up, and catch it again at a later time when it's a couple pounds bigger or something. And it's just all about again, for me, like, I like to pre-plan content for an extended period of time. Like right now, I have the content mapped out for the next 12 months for blog posts that I'll be doing, or videos content that I'm going to be putting out. So I don't have to wake up in the morning going, oh gosh, what am I going to do today? And then I get all frustrated because I don't know what I'm going to be producing.
Well, and if you don't have a plan, you don't actually do anything. For me, if I don't have a plan, what I'm talking about, what my topic is, and I just look at it, my set, that's why, like, for instance, we would have never re-recorded this show if this stuff wasn't ready. Like, if it wasn't set up. Because if you don't know what you're doing, if it's not set for you, chances are you're probably not going to do a recording. You're not going to do a live. You're not going to produce any content. You are just going to sit and consume and see what other people are doing, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be ready. But what I love about what you just said is, like, that's why we run the 21-day plan, and we can pop that graph up that we use. But it's about, what is that statement? Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you're not mapping out your content. But I like your idea is, I typically say, like, write down every, pain topic that you possibly can solve, right? Every pain, and then plot out, what is the hot topics. Like, how I typically work in any of my sales stuff, and you probably do the same, is we work on what's called the awareness scale. And I forget who started talking about it initially in marketing. It's a really actually big book. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's the awareness scale, right? So if you think about, you always have to say, where's my customer client on the awareness scale? Meaning very low, not aware at all, I got a problem, I'm just cruising. Up here is like, I'm aware, I'm ready to buy. But how do you get them from here to here? We go from no aware at all, now I got a problem. Okay, I actually realize I have a problem. Then they go, I got a problem, but whoa, you mean there's actually a solution for that? Yeah. Like, you can fix this? And then it's product aware. There's a product for that or a person for that. Bam, I'm totally aware. So I measure everything I do, and I plot all my content out based on my awareness scale. And looking and thinking about, who am I talking to? A lot of people, I see this in network marketers or in any marketer, especially those that are building their brand, they just start talking, and I'm like, they have no idea what you're talking about. Like, if you're a fly fisherman, right? I don't know anything about certain ties.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to sell a new person, a new product or a new technique or training for technique, I got to know that there's more stuff out there, right? Or I don't know. I use this example all the time. Like, if somebody doesn't know that, like, their belly fat, the fruits and vegetables they eat causes belly fat, they have no idea, and you're like selling them keto or selling them, right, some type of a diet, they're not going to choose it.
No, because they don't even know that that's the answer.
Exactly. So that's how we plot our content. Like, week 1 is all about problem videos. Like, talk about the problem, agitate it, let them know they got a problem, and whether they already know they have a problem or not, you still talk about it.
What is their biggest pain? Like, what's the biggest? Okay, go back to fly fishing. What's the biggest pain? I don't know jack diddly about fly fishing.
I was like,
I'm curious about it. It seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or I just got a fly rod, but I don't know how to use it. I don't know where to cast. I don't know how to cast.
Yeah.
So my biggest pain is, like, first of all, how do I? Because fly fishing and regular fishing is very different. Like, how do I?
Yeah, because it's like wiggly, and it's got a long string.
Yeah, and then where do I lay the fly, and then how do I strip it in so a fish will actually take it?
So think about that. Like, those are level ones. Like, week 1, I would say, if we're running a 21-day plan, a psychological 21-day plan that marches them in as a Pied Piper. So like problem, and then the second week would be problem. Like, okay, now I got a problem, and then into the solution is week 2. It's when you give lead magnets, things like that, like kind of entice them to give them your stuff. And then the third week is how I do it. Is that my third week then would be like, this is the product. I got the solution. I'm your gal. Product. Here's my big fat offer.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that works. That helps everyone organize their stuff the best. But it gets you also in action to know your audience as well.
Yeah.
You know. All right. So we've had a lot of chatting, and it is starting to get warm. And we've talked about, you know, value based. Are you giving value? Are you taking? Are you a producer? Are you a consumer? And I'd like to hear, Todd, from you, like as a closing before we go into, you know, the fire round, is what would you say from a brand new person? What are the first steps that they should take if they're starting either a direct sales business or they're a brick and mortar that wants to go online, right? Because it's pretty similar, actually, activity.
Sure.
You know?
I would say if I was going to start, okay, I'll stick on fly fishing for a second since we've been talking about it. So if I wanted to be good at fly fishing, I'd start studying other fly fisher men and fly fisher women.
Yeah,
right?
What are they doing?
What are they doing? And then if I was like, oh, how cool would that be? Maybe someday I could actually be a fly fishing guide. Well, I would start studying fly fishing guides and who are the top fly fishing guides. I would actually go out, which I actually did this is interesting. So I've been fishing my whole life, but I've never done the salmon fly hatch where I live. And it's like these giant bugs, and they only come out in the end of May, and big trout hit them, and I'd never done it before.
So they jump out.
They are
so you really get to see it. That is like the coolest.
Like big fish and big bugs, and
like Alaska, the salmon when they do that.
Yeah. But I had never done it before, so I was like, yeah, I can go up there and try it myself, and I know I'm gonna just fail, right? And I'll just be like all frustrated, go home, and like I'm like everybody else catching fish, I get nothing. So one day I hired an Indian guide, and I went out for 10 hours with an Indian guide. And then the next time I went out with this other guide. But the thing that I did, instead of just going out and fishing, I'm like taking pictures of the flies. I'm looking at exactly how the rig is tied.
Yeah.
I'm watching, and like a quick example, like I fished my whole life, but this guy, he's like, hey, we're out in the water, in the river, and he's like, cast it, like I'm casting out into the water a little bit. And he goes, cast it right up onto the shore, like as close to the grass as you can. I'm like, it's only like 4 inches deep right there. He's like, cast it right there. So I'm like, and there's a fish that is like literally on the shore and hammers my fly. And I would have never even thought to cast it right there. But because this guy who's an expert in it, it's like one of the first things I learned a long time ago. If you want to be successful in something, find somebody who has what you want and do what they do. And so copying the success of others, or modeling, I think is probably a better word. We don't want to copy and steal people's stuff. I mean, that's plagiarism, but I think you can definitely learn a lot by paying attention. And that's the same thing at the beginning of the conversation, like consumption versus production. I can consume with a purpose, and the purpose is for me to understand more clearly what it is that, you know, in this area of expertise, for example, that I'm watching or consuming data on. Yeah, no, I get that. And was it Picasso says it best, right? Good artists copy, great artists steal, but it doesn't mean if they steal, they make it better. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, so it's about consuming someone's information and going, okay, I can do that. Like, there's a structure behind it. I can actually do that. And I think that's really good advice early on. Anyone that's starting, especially if you're looking to run a podcast, or you're looking to go live, or you're putting together a product, right? Or looking for the right leader or mentor, is to really look for those that have already done what you are doing or have done what you want. Where can they find you? Because I know you've got some products and some courses that, especially if they're in direct sales network marketing, where can they go to consume some of your content so that they can learn more from you and then produce it for themselves? They can go to toddfalcone.com. That's one place. I have a ton of free video content. Hundreds of videos on that page, actually. It's toddfalcone.com. Falcone. So they can find me there. Okay. That's my main website. One of the things, my book, Fearless Networking, which like we were talking about, some people get it wrong. It's like my brand is The Fearless Networker, but my book, one of my books is called Fearless Networking, which is actually great for network marketers and traditional salespeople. Yeah. So they can grab that book if they want to just kind of scope me out, or they can find me on Facebook.
And he gives it away for free too.
Yeah, just
so go get his book.
And...
All right, so we're gonna go to the lightning round. I'm gonna ask you 3 rapid fire questions, top of your head questions.
I didn't know this was coming.
Yeah, no one ever does. But if you watch me long enough, you know my questions. All right, red or white wine?
Red.
Yes. Sriracha or Tabasco?
Wait a second. Do I have to choose one, really?
I know, that's the thing.
Okay. I mean, look, sriracha if I'm dealing with like Asian food
Chinese,
and rice.
yeah, that's what I always say.
Or pho. But Tabasco for my eggs.
All right, so I have the exact same answer. I'm like such a hot sauce connoisseur that really it's like, I mean, I go down to, is it habanero? Where do you use habanero sauce? Is it, like, I don't like to get fried in the lips. I like to get super, super hot, but I like to enjoy the taste.
Nice little burn.
Yeah, all right.
I love hot sauce.
Yeah, me too. All right, so this is an interesting question for you because you live in Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
But you love to surf.
I do.
So mountains or beach?
Why do you do this to me? Okay, for me, mountains for sure. I grew up in the mountains.
Yeah.
I've been skiing for over 40 years. I feel like when I'm in the trees, that's my happy place. And so, but I love to surf. I spent 20 plus years of my life surfing, and it came to a choice, right? Like, because I mean, you guys, like, I love what you guys have done. You live a very non-traditional life that I think is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Like, you guys choosing to travel to over 50 countries and raise Hanalei in the way that you've raised her. And I mean, I hadn't seen her in like 11 years, and like to engage with her in conversation, I called my wife. I was like, oh my gosh, like you have got to see what Hanalei has turned into. Like, such an amazing little girl who's very, very business savvy. And of course, they got 2 great parents, so that's obviously been a big impact on that.
Plug, we didn't pay him for that.
No, you didn't. I mean, actually, like when I was talking, it's like almost makes my eyes water because I get emotional over it because it's so cool. Now, being here, and Brian, thank you so much for taking me surfing. I appreciate it. He's been saying, when are you coming to Bali?
I know, right?
I don't know if I'm ever coming. Well, first of all, it was Panama. Oh, Chile. No, like, okay, so I finally came, and
this is the right place to go.
And a funny thing, so I know you asked me, so mountains is for sure my thing.
But this is great. This light always opens up.
Yeah, and I love surfing, and this is also something that's kind of interesting. So you can't get good at the thing that you never do. And so when I was surfing all the time, I had a high degree of confidence in surfing. And I wouldn't say I was a good surfer. Like, I could surf waves, no problem. I could pull into barrels, no problem. Honestly, this week I surfed like hell. And
you still had fun.
I got pitched off the lip, and I probably, out of the days I went, I probably got maybe 10 good waves out of like 5 days of surfing. But to be in the healing salt water and just to be out in the ocean for me has been just an amazing experience. And I'm thinking, like, I am so out of surf shape, but if I, like, and it's funny because I'm going back to Bend tonight, right?
Are you go back into mountain shape then right away?
Oh, I'm ready for mountains already.
Yeah, different.
Yeah.
It is a totally different thing.
Because it's also something I've done every single year. Like last year, I got 61 days in on the mountain.
Wow.
And
well, you got to go to Bend.
You should come. Yeah. Open invite, do it.
All right. Because we snowboard. I love snowboarding. All right, I love that. I have one more question now because this is now the new one. Bamboo or cotton?
Oh my gosh, there's no question. Bamboo.
Selfless.
I'm so spoiled, right? So I was in Singapore like 10 years ago, and I bought this bamboo underwear, and I was like,
yeah, you already knew a bit about it.
I put it on, I was like, whoa, that's so soft and cuddly. I like never experienced underwear like that, and then. Now you guys have ruined me because, this is not cotton. So I'm going to throw on a cotton t-shirt and be like, okay, that sucks.
It's true.
And I had no idea, by the way, and I'll give you guys another plug even though we didn't plan on it. The whole idea, like, and I was Googling it last night. I'm like, wow, I had no clue, like, to make a cotton shirt, how much waste there is.
Yeah. You can't unhear that. When Hanalei tells you, it takes 750 gallons of water to produce a cotton t-shirt. And Hanalei goes on that kick, right, with the amount of drinking water we have left and why we have to reduce all of it, and that's why we use bamboo. But it's amazing, right? You can't unhear it anymore.
No, and when you wear bamboo, you can't go back.
and it's so soft. Like I'm literally wearing a complete outfit. This is modal, which uses 50% less water than cotton, but we recycle our chemicals with this type of fabric. So it's equally as sustainable, if not a little bit better than bamboo, but bamboo, they're both super soft.
Yeah.
So, all right, so this is good. See, now we've converted Todd to be a bamboo lover. Now also everyone here always knows you guys can go to RhondaSwan.com. You can get your own bamboo t-shirt, and it contributes a uniform to kids in India. In fact, you got 8 t-shirts, 4 more today, and that means that there's going to be 12 uniforms donated in honor of the Falcone family in January to India, because Hanalei, our family and Hanale's company, gives school uniform for every item that we sell.
That's awesome.
Right? Because it's, it's about kids, about education, about you having value in your brand, right? So everything we talk about, sexy brands also have value base behind them, and they support others, and that's also why you choose me or you choose others, because you're like, gosh, I just love what they're all about.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's why you should choose Todd, because he's fearless.
There you go.
There you go. All right, guys, look, in the dark, in the heat, we didn't go live on this one, but you're watching this one now as a replay. You're either listening on the podcast. Always thank you for being here and following the Help Me Rhonda show. Remember, we go live every single Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern on the Unstoppable Mama page. I always want to take your questions and get any feedback that you guys may have. But I'll leave you with one thing. If you're going to create a brand, create a sexy brand. And if you're going to be anything, be unstoppable!